You're on.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting. Today is Monday, December 2nd, 2024. It's approximately 1 p.m. I'm Mayor Eric Enriquez. Before we start, I want to say that if we can have a moment of silence for the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces as they protect our interests around the globe, as well as the courageous men and women of the Las Cruces Police and Las Cruces Fire Department as they keep our city safe 24/7. If you join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Where's Christine? Next on the agenda, we have a couple of presentations for recognition and then a proclamation. No, there's not. I don't know if they have recognition. First, we want to recognize the Centennial High School boys soccer team. So if they want to come up and join us up front. So on November 9th, Centennial High School boys soccer team won the program's first ever championship, defeating La Cueva High School with a 2-1 victory for the Class 5A title. It was a hard-fought match, with the Hawks scoring the winning goal in the second overtime period. The championship win capped off a 22-1 season, made even more meaningful by the fact that it would be Coach Loya's final game. Coach Loya, who has been Centennial's only head coach since the school first started in its season in 2012, had let the team know this season would be his last. This was a testament to the program he's built and the skill and dedication he instills in his teams. Congratulations, guys. I just want to also add that, you've all made the community proud. You've made your parents, your friends, your classmates, your school very proud. We're all proud of you. I know right now you're living in the present, so it's great. It's a huge accomplishment. It's a great achievement what you've done. But mark my words, 10 years from now, you'll go back to that school and you'll see that you left a mark. 20 years from now, you'll know that you left a mark. 30 years from now, you'll be talking about family and careers, but you got one thing that nobody can take away from you, and that's your state championship. I congratulate you for that. There was a famous NFL coach said that you're not a success unless you win the last game of the season. You all have done that. You're a huge success. So congratulations again. Let's give him a hand.
This doesn't have an H though, so I'm guessing.
The H is silent. Next, we'd like to recognize Jordan Campion, another Centennial High School student. Jordan, are you here? You want to come on up? Her parents? Wanted to also recognize Jordan. Jordan is a sophomore at Centennial High School, where she demonstrates commitment to athletics and academics. She is a member of the swim and cross-country team, as well as a member of the National Honor Society and student government. Jordan competes in scholarship pageants, with her current title being Teen Miss New Mexico Earth. She has competed on a platform of Love Your Mother Earth for several years. Love Your Mother Earth teaches people how small things can make a big impact on the environment and how easy it is to help the planet. This year, she completed a Think Global, Act Local project. For this project, Jordan worked to remove illegal dump sites and illegal dump tires from the desert. Through monthly cleanups, she removed 105 illegally dumped tires this year and countless bags of trash. Jordan aspires to become an attorney practicing in the area of environmental law and policy. I first met Jordan a few months ago. Her and her parents came to visit me in my office, and they were telling me of all these amazing things that she does and what she's a member of. And I was so inspired by her that I said we had to give her some kind of recognition for all her work, her attitude, and her commitment to our earth and to our local community. I know she has more plans. We're going to work together. We want to keep Las Cruces clean. We want to keep Las Cruces safe. And a person like this is here to inspire us all, and we thank her. I don't know if, Jordan, you want to say a couple of words? You're good? You're good? Let's just get busy cleaning. She's awesome, and we just want to recognize her for that. Let's give her another big hand.
I invite Kate Nixon to come up, please, and bring your team if you want to bring a team. In recognition of Osteopathic Medicine Month. So come on up. We'll read the proclamation, then you'll have a chance to, yeah? Thank you. Then you'll have a chance to speak too. So, all right. Whereas 2024 marks 150 years of osteopathic medicine, and whereas the American Osteopathic Association's history begins with the innovative and thoughtful mind of physician Andrew Taylor Still, MD, DO, who, after losing 4 children, reevaluated the existing practice of medicine and began settling down with the tenets of osteopathic medicine in 1874. And whereas Andrew Taylor Still, MD, DO, changed the trajectory of modern healthcare delivery, and whereas there are now more than 197,000 osteopathic physicians and osteopathic medical students, including many here in Las Cruces, and whereas osteopathic physicians and medical students train at high-caliber schools of osteopathic medicine across the United States, including rural communities, and whereas the unique approach of osteopathic medicine, which includes osteopathic manipulative treatment, OMT, enables DOs to provide patients the most comprehensive level of care found in medicine today, and whereas osteopathic physicians have made significant contributions to the healthcare system of the United States and play a critical role in public health preparedness and working on the front lines treating patients, and whereas the osteopathic profession has grown exponentially since its inception to include 41 colleges and 66 locations across 35 states, to include Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine in Las Cruces, New Mexico, Melbourne, and Melbourne, Florida. And whereas osteopathic medicine emphasizes a whole person, patient-centric approach to healthcare, and osteopathic physicians play an important role in the healthcare system of the United States. And whereas osteopathic physicians train and practice in all medical specialties and practice settings in every state and across international boundaries. And whereas in the state of New Mexico, 65% of 2024 medical school graduates graduated from an osteopathic medical school. And whereas the American Osteopathic Association is the only organization representing all osteopathic physicians, regardless of specialty or practice type, at the federal and state level, with the support of its state affiliates, specialty societies, and other stakeholders, ensuring their voice is heard and the public understands the distinctive approach DOs bring to the practice of medicine. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the month of December as Osteopathic Medicine Month.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Nixon. I am the president of the New Mexico Osteopathic Medical Association. I'm also the program director of the Osteopathic Neuromusculoskeletal Medicine program at Mountain View. I am adjunct faculty at Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine, and I'm also the medical director for Las Cruces Public Schools. I am really excited for this today, and I just want to say a big thank you to the City Council and to the Mayor. I'm very proud of Las Cruces. We're the first in the country to make our proclamation, and we were recognized by the president of the American Osteopathic Association, Dr. Hubka. So you guys are on the cutting edge, and I really appreciate your support. And we are, dedicated at NMOMA. We're dedicated to doing what we can to support osteopathic education at all levels. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have Jobs of the Week. Sarah Rainey.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. As you said, my name is Sarah Rainey. I am the one-stop coordinator for the Southwest Region of New Mexico Workforce. For the Jobs of the Week for December 2nd, 2024, we have a cook for the city. That one starts at $16.50 an hour, and the posting closes on the 9th. We also have a utility systems crew leader. That posting starts at $23.79 an hour, and the posting closes on the 9th as well. We have a deputy program manager out at White Sands Missile Range. The posting closes on the 23rd of December. We have a finance manager for American Red Cross. The position starts at $92,000 a year, and the posting closes when it's filled. Dialysis registered nurse, for sure, that one's not correct. I'll skip that one. We have a freshman wrestling coach for LCPS. That one will close when the posting is filled as well. As always, come join us at 226 South Alameda for any career needs or anything that you're needing to help along your career, change your career, or anything. If you have any questions about any of our postings or looking for something specific. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah. Next is Pet of the Week, Carol Nielsen.
Oh. It is not populating the slides. How would you like me to proceed? It is not populating the slides.
Yeah, I guess it's not coming on. Just go ahead and
Okay.
do.
I was going to say, if you can give me a few minutes, I can try to pull it up on my phone.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it? I have Mesa and Levi here, if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, if you could, sorry. It'll take a while, so yes, please proceed.
Okay, that's fine, Carol. Go ahead, Counselor Corinne, if you want to.
I'll start with Cat of the Week, Levi, who is, I'll describe him to you, so that since we don't have pictures. Levi is an orange tabby with a little bit of white mixed in, medium hair, very beautiful. Looks cleverer than the average orange cat, I would say, so if you can imagine. Levi's a bit shy at first, but really he's all about the love. He says, I'm not aggressive. In fact, I'm a little timid and scared sometimes. When I meet new people, I like to take my time and assess the situation. I feel you, buddy. So I'll need to you to glow slow around me at first. Once I feel comfortable, I'll start coming over to you, rubbing up against you and purring away. If you're ready to give me the space and time I need, I promise to make a loving and gentle friend for life. So, sorry, do you want to do the next one?
No, it's not pulling up on my
Okay.
phone, so please continue.
I got you. I like to be in the moment
No,
of
thank you.
of the pets of the week anyway. Give me a sec. Now my computer is slow, which makes me wonder, is the internet in protest right now? Well, I have a picture of Mesa, the adorable dog, pointy ears, soft fur. Does this sound accurate?
Yeah, it should medium mixed breed.
Mixed breed, I think. Yeah, pretty decent in size. Very joyful, enjoys playing, I suspect.
Lots of energy, yes. Most of our dogs that we promote for Pet of the Week are very energetic, and so families that love to be active are a great fit for them. Mesa is one of our longer-term residents at the center, so we would love to see her go to a family this week.
Yes.
So
No.
unfortunately, we don't have the ability to breed specify, but she's a gorgeous dog, so unfortunately we can't see her.
Pointy ears, she looks like joyful mix to run around with. Yeah, somebody go adopt her. Here, I will, while I'm trying to bring up the last of the emails. I don't see Mesa's thing. Pets of the Week are always free, right? Adoptions are always free, and throughout the month of December, all adoptions from ASCMV are $50, right?
That is correct.
Home for the holidays. Do you want me to talk about some of the other things?
Yeah, absolutely.
PetSmart. Oh no, this was last weekend. So actually, I don't have that. Those are all the things I have right now on my email.
So this coming weekend, I can share with you, we're going to be at Petco instead of PetSmart. And if I remember correctly, it's 11 to 2 that will be there. So these events are always really great because then you have the opportunity to get supplies that you need while you adopt the animals. And even if you can't adopt, we always recommend coming by to say hi because it also helps the animals get socialized in new experiences. So we love the support where we can.
Awesome. Thank you. As usual, check out the Facebook page. You give that spiel. Thanks, Carol.
Yeah. So our website is ascmv.org. And then we're also on social media, so you can check out our social media accounts for regular updates and specials we have going on. So anything else? Sorry about that. Thank you.
No, that's fine, Carol. Thank you. Next, we have the conflict of interest. Does any member of the city council, city manager, or any member of the city staff have any known conflict of interest with any item on the agenda?
None by Flores.
None.
None.
Next, we'll go to public participation. We'll have Katrina coming down and she'll assist you in coming to the podium. We allow 3 minutes, no pending litigation or items on non-consent to be spoken at this time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beverly Hogan, and...
If you can speak directly into the microphone.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan.
Yes. Hi, I'm Beverly Hogan, and I just wanted to address 2 things that I'd like to see the City Council add when you address our legislature. The most important one, I think, would be that we look at what Police Chief Story has regarding crime legislation that he would like to see passed. It's the competency restoration for violent felonies and repeat offenders. This is needed in order to stop the current situation where repeat offenders are being released over and over again simply to commit more crimes. Also, he wants to see that we allow law enforcement to be petitioners for assisted outpatient treatment. In other words, allowing the LCPD to get more people into the treatment that they need. And pretrial detention, which would be bail reform for violent crimes and repeat offenses while awaiting trial. The last is juvenile justice reform to reduce juvenile repeat offenders. The last part is I do have a problem with our city council endorsing family paid medical leave. This imposes a tax on everyone who's an employee of the state at a time when so many people are already struggling with increased costs of living. It would require businesses to pay into a state-managed fund to provide 3 months of paid leave for any employee. This would place a large financial burden on the business, especially small businesses. Businesses would then have to allow employees to take several months of leave annually and would not be allowed to hire anyone else to replace those on leave. Small businesses simply can't afford to function this way. It would be devastating to our small businesses, which were already suffering because of the violent crime here in Las Cruces. So I'd really appreciate if you would consider those 2 items. I've already sent them to Senator-elect Ann Thornton as well as our legislature, but I'd really appreciate if you consider that when you do direct the legislature. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to mention that we are not allowing for public participation to be something that's on the non-consent, but I did grant Ms. Hogan an exception because she does have to leave for an appointment that she has. So if you can wait till that item comes up for discussion, you'll have some public comments at that time.
Good afternoon. I'm Lynn Moorer, here to talk briefly about EPA's new lead and copper rule. Some of you know I practiced environmental law in Nebraska before relocating to Las Cruces to take care of my parents about 10 years ago. It is critical that this important rule be implemented properly and fully. With respect, I fear its rollout is being botched. False and misleading statements from city councilors are not helpful, no matter how much cheerleading you want to do. Vague, misleading, and/or contradictory statements from staff also undercut your efforts. In addition to lacking clarity, the letter the city sent was largely written in English. Spanish speakers were merely directed to call a number. The entire letter, written clearly and accurately, should have been sent in English and Spanish in order for it to have a chance of being read and understood by most affected Las Cruces water users. The presentation at the City Council's November 18 meeting was inadequate. There was no opportunity for the public to ask questions and have them answered by knowledgeable persons. The briefing contained inaccurate, incomplete, and misleading information. In reality, the rule makes clear that testing your drinking water is not a substitute for replacing your lead pipes. Financial help is supposed to be available for property owners who don't have the funds to bear the cost of replacing their lead pipes. There seems to be an effort to declare victory ridiculously early, simply because 4 weeks after the notification letter in English was sent out, the city hasn't heard from any property owner saying they found lead pipes. To clarify, the rule provides a 10-year period in which to get all the lead out and achieve full compliance. It also appears that there's an effort by city representatives to shut down inquiry and dodge providing answers to key questions with supporting documentation in a public meeting that is live streamed and recorded. I request an opportunity at a city council meeting for a public briefing by knowledgeable persons where the public has ample opportunity to make comments, ask questions, and receive answers. City councilors need to also have an opportunity to ask all their questions and receive complete answers, as well as hearing the concerns and information provided by their constituents. Shoving us off to a utilities board meeting will not work. There are more than technical issues to be discussed. There's at least one important policy and legal issue that needs to be put before city councilors, the city attorney, and management. Thank you very kindly. I appreciate your time.
Liz Rodriguez Johnson, speaking to you today in regards to my concerns about how the city is handling the new EPA lead and copper rule, and also to reiterate some of the comments that Ms. Moore just made. It was disappointing that the city's letter was written in English, except for 2 sentences in Spanish. The Spanish sentences said that the recipient has to call a number to obtain important information. That's more likely to cause the recipient, who only speaks and reads Spanish, to throw the letter away, then call the number to find out something that might threaten their well-being. Most of the people impacted by this are in the older neighborhoods and are Hispanic. A respectful and competent way we don't want to hear that they think that there's no lead piping in the older parts of downtown without presenting clear evidence of that. I therefore request a briefing at the City Council meeting, which has a significant opportunity for public comments and questions. An ample amount of time, for example, an hour or so, needs to be reserved for public comments after staffers have given a thorough, truthful presentation. In response to public questions, the public and the city councilors then need to receive fully truthful, non-evasive answers from knowledgeable people. Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Trent Scribney. I came here today to discuss a case that kind of disturbed me about Joanne Malone Gaudian, who was evicted from her home about a week ago. She was evicted from her home and she ended up breaking back in. This is a 70-year-old woman to try to get out of the cold. Understandably, LCBD came and she was arrested then. The disturbing part is that later she was released from the Doña Ana County Detention Center, just released with no ride into the cold of winter, and she's since gone missing. And so I'm just curious as to what we can do to protect these people, because it's going to keep happening. Older people are losing their homes here at record rates, and if we have people getting evicted, getting arrested, how do we avoid releasing them to where we know they have nowhere to go? They evicted them last week and released her. They know she had nowhere to go. I don't know. I'm just dumbfounded this was allowed to happen, that she was released to the custody of no one. People who know her are saying that she has dementia. So this woman is out on the streets confused with no place. I just think it's a tragedy. And it's something that the council should seriously think about, because it's not going to get better anytime soon. That's about all that I had. Thank you.
Vic Villalobos, Mayor, Councilors, Chiefs. It's been a little while since I've come up here to speak, and the last time I came up to speak, we were voting on, I thought, some pretty important things when it came to the ordinances for the carts and for some of the vagrancy type stuff we were looking at, and I do think we've actually made some changes. I think that we see less shopping carts. I think that some solutions came up where people were given the smaller carts, and we see less of them, and I think that that's actually helped. I think we've actually seen a lot less of the people, out in the streets actually, trying to solicit money from people, and I think a lot of that was organized crime, that when they saw that the council took action, that they moved on to other places, and so I think that's a good thing. And I know I haven't been able to be here like many other people. We're super busy. It's hard to get away, but I still follow. I still watch when I can, and I feel like we think that was the solution to everything, that suddenly everything was going to change, and I think we were clear in the beginning that those are the baby changes we needed to keep going. And I look at the things that the city is wanting to do and the priorities that we are now making, and it saddens me that those priorities don't include some of these things that Chief Story is asking for, going to Santa Fe and doing things. I don't know how much time you guys actually spend out on the street, like where our businesses are, but we're still having issues. We still have these problems. And whether you realize it or not, and I think it's just because some of you choose to follow an agenda that you will not look away from, no matter the cost of the businesses, no matter the cost of the citizens that are the majority of this city. You will not look at any other alternatives. And we keep, all of our funding is so focused on places like the Community Hope, which I do think do good things. But we focus so much on that we encourage more and more people to come to our community. These people we are encountering, that I am encountering, that people like Dr. Kyle are encountering, that my wife is encountering, they're not from Las Cruces. They are not. They are from other cities, and they're coming here because we are making it welcoming for them to come here. And we need to have change. You cannot expect a police force to be able to handle the situation. Look at we can barely get the people coming to our academies. Why would somebody want to come here and be a police officer if you can't, they don't even have the support really from this council out there to do things. Was that a whole 3 minutes? All right.
Yes, again, I just want to remind everyone, if you're going to talk about an item that's on the non-consent, such as the legislative priorities, wait till that item comes up and we'll open it up for discussion.
My name is Harry Murray, Mayor Enriquez, councilors, Steve's story. Before I get into what I had to say, I just wanted to point out that it was so gratifying to see a soccer team from one of the Las Cruces high schools win a state championship. Back in the mid-'80s, this was almost an impossibility. I was a member of the High Noon Soccer League, and we had to fight and struggle to get soccer into our two high schools at the time. One of the athletic directors termed it to be a communist sport. And the school board said, oh, it's too expensive. But soccer's not really expensive. You can probably outfit a whole team for the cost of a couple of football uniforms. So we finally persuaded the schools to put soccer in high schools, in the High Noon Soccer League paid for the first 4 years of it, and a graduating decreasing degree. But it's become a pretty successful thing now. Several months ago, there was much discussion on the City Council related to public safety, crime, and drug use in Las Cruces. Several ordinances were passed, much to the chagrin of several council members. However, it's been looked upon as a successful thing by some in the state. Albuquerque is now considering a grocery card ordinance. All this seems to be forgotten, as many important crime-related legislation priorities aren't to be discussed at the council meeting today. What about legislation priorities to address competency restoration for violent felonies? And
Mr. Murray, I was telling everyone again, a reminder, if you're going to speak about the legislative priorities, then wait till 7.1. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, Juan Garcia. For nearly 3 interminable years, I have been a constant haunting presence before this council. My voice a relentless plea echoing through these chambers, begging for your action, your support in demanding state legislators, many of your friends and colleagues, take decisive action. Change that would shield the innocent, fortify the vulnerable, and strike fear into the hearts of those who would seek to do them harm. I have yearned for a champion among you, an unyielding advocate for the downtrodden, the brutalized, the victims left shattered in the wake of the merciless criminal horde that stalks our streets. For the Patricia Jimenezes, Little Shop on Main, and others in the community who were forced to abandon their life's work, their dreams, their very livelihoods to the relentless onslaught of the Las Cruces criminal element. Looking for someone like Councilor Bencomo, who has been a true advocate for the causes she believes in. Agree or disagree with her, she stands true to her convictions. For all those who have been broken by the cruel hand of fate and the callous disregard of the predatory element that lurks in every shadow, I have longed for a voice of righteous indignation out of those among our elected representatives who have lost their way, who have forgotten the sacred oath they swore to protect and serve the people. The so-called, quote, progressive legislators who fawn and cater to the criminals, who coddle and enable them while the victims are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. Legislators like Senator Cervantes, who when confronted with a request for help in addressing crime in this community, can only muster the pathetic, self-delusional comfort that, quote, at least we are not as bad as Albuquerque. As if that were a twisted badge of honor, a grotesque metric by which to measure our worth as a community. It is nothing short of breathtaking, the audacity, the sheer moral bankruptcy of such a statement. A stark reminder of just how far we've fallen, how deeply the rot of complacency and appeasement has infected the halls of power. I held on to hope until I saw the Las Cruces favor, among others, animal welfare, because clearly the welfare of animals outweighs public safety and well-being of hardworking citizens. So let that sink in. This council prioritizes the welfare of animals over small businesses and the citizens. Just what you'd expect from this council, I guess. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Jim Hurst. I want to start by reading New Mexico Constitution, Article 2, Section 11. Every man shall be free to worship God according to the dictates of his own conscience. No person shall be required to attend any place of worship or support any religious sect or denomination, nor shall any preference be given by law to any religious denomination or mode of worship. I want to address Lisa Parrott's comments from last meeting. I agree with Ms. Parrott on some things. First, everyone is entitled to believe and worship according to the dictates of their conscience. Second, we both have the same impression about the mayor and his role in the National Day of Prayer service held here at City Hall. It seems we both have the impression that the mayor authorizes, sponsors, and participates in the event in his official capacity. It would be nice if the mayor would go on record and state exactly what his role in the event was. Both Ms. Parrott and I agree with the New Mexico Constitution that all New Mexicans have religious freedom and no person is required to participate in any religious service. What Ms. Parrott doesn't acknowledge is that no one should be required to support any religious service. The National Day of Prayer service is an unauthorized expense to the city and an unauthorized use of public facilities unless, of course, the mayor has the authority to use City Hall and city personnel however he wishes and does not require the consent of City Council to hold religious services here at this building. It also gives the appearance of an endorsement and express favoritism by the City of Las Cruces for a particular religious group and religious opinion. So while I agree with Lisa on many things, I challenge her, the CCIA, the mayor, and the city to do two things. First, define the event. State by what authority it is held, and specifically what city personnel and resources are appropriated to its use. Two, justify a public service, a public religious service using city resources under the New Mexico Constitution. If you can't do these two things, you must cease holding the event here. It's just that simple. Thank you very much.
Howdy, my name's Lonnie Montgomery, and I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And I have good news for the council and other people in this country. You can stop practicing your Mandarin. And the reason is we're going to be the US of A and not the USS of A. That's according to the voters. And then I just have a couple of questions. I come here at 1 o'clock because I can. But there are other people that can't. People that work. When I was going to school, or I was teaching school, I could not attend. So I would like to see if we can't meet maybe at a little later in time, say right around 6 o'clock, 6:30 someplace, so people can get off and come in and get in on the voting and make their opinions known to the council and vice versa. So that's one of my main questions. And then I have a little question about, I think I saw on TV in one of the stations in El Paso, it was called the 15-minute city. And the way it was explained, and I thought it was passed, or maybe it wasn't passed, maybe it was passed and put on the back burner, that the council had passed or not, I don't know for sure, because I don't attend every meeting. But anyway, that they had certain things that could be in there, and the zones could be changed almost at will, where if the people wanted to put a motorhome behind my house, they could do so. Or they could buy the place next door to me, and they could put in their dispensary, or the bar. And I understood under this plan that you could have a dispensary or a bar in each and every place. But it's called 15 minutes because you didn't have to walk out of your particular area, your quote and unquote city. Now, I was born and raised in the West, and there's a lot of stuff out there, and I don't want to be put in one place and told I can't go out another. And I'm sorry for the people in New York that they don't have all the beautiful spaces we have in New Mexico. But when Councilor Matisse came to Las Cruces, I asked if he could explain it to me and give me a call, and I gave him my number. And the only call I received was somebody calling me to speak to Mr. Matisse. And I didn't know how I was going to vote on the next thing, so I didn't answer them. So if I'd like the convenience, and I'd like more explanation, or is the zoning people, or are the zoning people going to decide what's in each and every of these parts of the city? I'd just like to know. Thank you very much.
Mayor Enriquez and city councilors, I'm Patty Hughes. I'm concerned about how Las Cruces Utilities is complying with the new federal lead and copper rule. Both English speakers and Spanish speakers who receive their water from Las Cruces Utilities need complete, factual information from knowledgeable people. This includes people who know what records actually show about exactly where lead lines are in the city, both publicly owned and privately owned. If there are gaps in city records, then we need to know that too. If Las Cruces Utilities is going to rely upon a website to inform the public about matters related to the new rule, the website needs to be in English and Spanish and needs to be made factually correct, well organized, easy to understand, and up to date. We all need to know, with documented evidence, the extent to which lead is in the city-owned water mains, piping, or any other type of water conduit. There's little point in private property owners going to the expense of replacing their lead pipes if water comes to them through city-owned lead piping. It doesn't help to hear unsubstantiated characterizations, whether from city staff or councilors. It was disturbing to me to hear a city councilor state on a radio show last week that if a property was built after the 70s, there's virtually no chance of lead pipes. This is not true. In reality, lead pipes used for water lines were not banned by federal law until 1986. In addition, plumbing fixtures containing lead were not banned for sale until 1998. There must be hundreds of houses built in Las Cruces between 1980 and 1998 that use lead pipes and or lead plumbing fixtures. We need to hear all the facts regarding achieving compliance with the new rule, including the facts that city personnel may not want to talk about. It discredits staff and councilors when we're told not to worry, not to ask penetrating questions, or just trust the people working on this. And it also leaves open the possibility that something could be covered up. I'd like to hear the facts from people who know them about what the city thinks the rule requires, what the current situation actually is, and what steps are being taken to achieve full compliance with the rule. This needs to happen in a public briefing at a city council meeting where citizens have plenty of time to make comments and ask questions and then have their questions answered by people who know the answers. If staffers don't know the answers, it would be helpful if they said so, and then find the answers and report back as soon as possible, again, within the context of a council meeting. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next is the acceptance of agenda.
So moved by Flores.
Second, Gorin.
This is on a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go into resolutions and/or ordinances for discussion. We'll start with 7.1, Resolution Number 25-068, a resolution approving the City of Las Cruces legislative priorities for the 2025 New Mexico legislative session.
Move to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. For the record, my name is Barbara Bencomo, Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Las Cruces. And today we are here to present to you a slate of priorities for the upcoming state legislative session for your consideration, many of which were discussed at the November work session and at earlier meetings. I'd like to introduce Larry Horan to present the capital outlay and policy priorities, and then I will follow up by acknowledging the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope capital outlay priorities. So with that, I'll turn it over to Larry.
No, it's okay. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Larry Horan, lobbyist for the City of Las Cruces. It's good to be back in front of you again to talk again about the legislative session that's coming in January. Just again for reference, just so you have an idea of timelines, pre-filing of legislation begins January 2nd and ends January 17th. That's about 2 weeks shorter than what we've had in the past. So as we stand before you, unless we've seen a bill that an interim committee has endorsed or presented for possible endorsement, we do not know what the legislation is going to look like for the coming session, because the first time we're going to see these bills is January 2nd. January 21st, the third Tuesday in January, the session begins at noon, and they have 30 days to file legislation. So February 20th is the deadline for introduction of legislation, and then March 22nd is when it ends. For capital outlay priorities, this is the list that was presented to you at the November 12th work session as the recommended capital outlay projects for adoption for our submission to the Legislative Council Service Portal and the Governor's Portal for consideration of capital outlay, which the deadline for the legislature is December 13th, so we're getting short on time, so we need to get them uploaded, and then also the Governor's deadline for capital outlay priority upload is December 20th, so a week after that. And then the legislators will consider funding for capital outlay. Usually that doesn't come until probably about the 5th or 6th week of the session. So we're looking in February when they'll actually make decisions as far as what projects they're going to fund. And if there's not any questions about any of these specifics, I'll just have them there for a second and then let me know if you have any questions. And Barbara, I don't think we had any changes on this list from November 12th, with the exception of maybe one addition. Two? I have to go back.
Yes, thank you, Larry. Barbara Bencomo for the record. There were actually two additions to the list. Let me see if I can, there we go. In italics, you'll see Amador Crossing was added to the list of recommended capital outlay priorities for some gap funding for this housing project at the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope campus. And then we added the CAT MIH building, also in italics at the end of the list, also for gap funding to complete this facility. So those were the two additions, and they're just denoted with the italics. Thank you, Larry.
So now on to policy priorities. This is a summary of the priorities we discussed at the November 12th work session. And you'll note the first bullet is general support for legislation regarding, and then we have the list for affordable housing, animal welfare, paid family medical leave, legislation related to sustainability, and then also reform of the Inspection of Public Records Act and public safety statutes. And then the one specific for us is the enabling legislation for sewer system connections. Part of the reason and I've been before you before and we've had this discussion, is as we're looking at policy priorities, we don't know what the legislation is going to look like. There are different alternatives for tackling some of these issues, and legislation changes from when it's first introduced until it makes it through the legislature. So it's always been the recommendation to adopt general policy priorities and direction from the council and staff, so that way when I'm in Santa Fe lobbying on behalf of the city, once we see legislation, it's sent down to the city for evaluation and study, and then the city council can determine whether they support, oppose, or would like legislation amended. And so, and I've heard a lot already in public comment about public safety. For instance, in public safety, we don't know what the legislation is going to look like. I can say with reasonable certainty we're going to see legislation that relates to competency restoration. We're going to see legislation that relates to the Assisted Outpatient Treatment Act or civil commitment for those in behavioral health crisis. There will be some firearm legislation, and it could be as it relates to bump stocks or the Glock switches, as Chief Story has presented, but it could come in many different forms. And so in meeting with city staff and also standing before you, and also having attended several presentations throughout the interim where staff, members of the council, and Chief Story has presented, we have a really good sense of what the issues are in the community and what type of policy changes we may be looking towards, but we don't know what they're going to look like. A good example would be, if you remember last year, many members of the council came to Santa Fe and were visiting with legislators. That's the day that we saw the first competency legislation introduced. There were aspects of it that you supported. There are aspects of it that some members of the council had issue with. And we were able to have a significant evaluation of the legislation. And then I was given direction by the mayor and council as far as what position you wanted and what you wanted as far as support of that legislation during the session. So frequently when we see policy priorities, that's why we do it that way, because a bill that's introduced on the first day is going to look very different than how it may end up at the end of the session. The only exception to that is last year when we were working on the Metropolitan Redevelopment Act, or this year for the enabling legislation for sewer system connections. That's something the city, at the direction of city council and staff, I've been working with legislators for us to pass. So we know what that legislation is going to look like because we're crafting it. And if there's changes in that change is going to come through consultation with the city, so we know what that's going to look like. Anything that we're not actually trying to pass legislation, we just don't know what it's going to look like, and it can change. And so that's why we have these general policy priorities from the city. And I'm happy to discuss any of those in more specifics if you'd like me to. For instance, paid family medical leave, as we talked about on November 12th. If you'll recall, last year, there were two competing pieces of legislation that were very different. At the end, the one that was voted on for final passage was 12 weeks paid family medical leave, but it failed to pass. There was an alternative piece of legislation that required 6 weeks of paid family medical leave and a different funding mechanism. So things change, and legislation often changes, and so that's why until we see legislation, we keep it pretty general. as far as what we carry for as priorities. And I guess I'll pause to see if you have any questions about any of these specifically, or if we want to get through the list before questions.
I have a question, of course.
Okay.
Apologize. We're just going to go through, we have 2 more slides and then we'll get to questions. What I'd like to just present now is again, the overview of the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope priorities. These are our partners on the facility. The purpose of us bringing forward these items today is just for coordination, for resource planning. These entities actually submit their own priorities through the Legislative Council Services portal. But again, we want to make sure that we're coordinating with our partners and preparing for any funding that might come forward for these particular projects. And these were the same projects that were presented to you in November, and the amounts that will be requested by the entities for these projects. So now with that, I present you with your options, and of course we stand for any questions. Thank you.
Councilor Flores, do you have questions?
I have so many questions. The one question I have, Larry, is on the, how are the bills subsidized? Is it money that the federal government has, that the state government has received from the feds for certain projects like state highways and all that sort of stuff? So is there a distinction? Is there a difference?
Mayor and Councilor Flores, so I make sure I understand the question. Are you meaning funding for general fund appropriation, so the state budget, and then there's also capital outlay funding, which is project funding, and then a third piece would be if the state receives federal funds that they use to supplement their budget?
Okay, thank you for giving me that menu. So are there any projects here that are federally funded, or where there's money coming in from the feds for that? Is there anything that we're pursuing that fits that category of appropriations?
So Mayor and Councilor Flores, Barbara Bencomo for the record, there are projects here for which we have received federal funding. For example, the CIT MIH building, we did receive $3 million from Senator Heinrich as an earmark. So those are funds coming from the federal government. So yes, the Real-Time Crime Center, for example, has received funds also from Senator Heinrich for equipment for that facility. So we typically have a mix of funding for our projects. It might be capital outlay, could be our own funds that we're putting forward along with federal funds. And of course, for some of these larger projects, that's very typical for us to look for all options to fund the projects.
Thank you. I think it's important for the public to know that, and I don't know if our newspapers will cover it, but it's good for them to know that it's not, the state government is not the sole source of revenue and application. Thank you.
Councilor Grant?
Hi, thank you. So I always try to look and see how many slides are in a presentation when it's brought up, so I kind of know the scope. And it looked like this one had 42, which means there's like hidden gems of things that you've prepared in case we get specific questions. Or did I misread?
Mayor,
got some hidden gems?
Mayor and Councilor Graham, we always like to have backup slides, or what we
Right.
refer to as back pocket slides, if there are questions about the particular projects. And you might recall that in November, when we brought this forward as a work session item, we went into detail on each project, the funding
Right.
sources, the scope, the community impact. And we, of course, still have those available for you if you have any questions about the specific projects.
Okay, thank you. Then I don't know if these slides are, I like that back pocket slides. If not, if Chief Story, you would be available, sorry to put you on the spot or make you talk off the cuff. Do we have some of those, Larry, you cited competency, AOT, a couple of other things. Do we have that on the slide deck? Or if not, Chief, I'm sure you can speak cogently on this without visual.
Mayor and Councilor, I will say, we do not have those on the slide deck. It's the capital outlay. So for the priorities for policy items, I'm happy to turn it over to Chief Story.
Good afternoon, Jeremy Story, Police Chief, Mayor, Council, and Councilor Graham. Thank you for the opportunity. There's several priorities that I have. We have been speaking on them since really before February 11th, but especially after February 11th when Officer Hernandez was murdered. As Larry mentioned, it's hard to commit to anything because we don't have actual bills yet, but the overall theme that I'm looking for is competency reform. Our competency statutes, I think, I would argue, are the worst in the country. They give us no options on how we deal with people who especially commit numerous crimes and then are not found competent because there's really no options other than dismissing the case. I know that there's going to be legislation that's brought forward. I'm confident that anything that passes is going to be better than what we have now. It's really hard to make it worse. And so as the bills come forward, hopefully we'll be able to look at them and see what's promising or what maybe could be tweaked to make it better. Some of the other items we talked about, AOT, all that stuff, I would like to see it actually work together. In some states like Minnesota, you see their assisted outpatient treatment laws work with their civil commitment laws, with their competency laws, so that everything kind of connects to each other. And so you have, it makes as much sense as it can. It's complicated, but you have different paths for different people based on what's going on in their life. And it gives people options, which we do not have right now. Some of the other things I think that are important are pretrial detention, which is one of those topics that's more contentious, I think, than competency. But right now, they made some changes this last session, which I think are positive. But we still have more work to do, and that's highlighted, obviously, by the last officer-involved shooting where that person was in custody for 12 hours and 2 minutes for 2 violent crimes. And really, that should not happen. That shouldn't be able to happen. There should be time for the district attorney to petition for a hearing, and then ultimately the judge will decide whether that person is released or not. They're not going to be held indefinitely without a judge determining that. But there should be a presumption in a violent crime that the defense has to prove that they're not a threat to the community. Right now, the presumption is on the prosecution, and it happens so fast that sometimes the prosecution doesn't even have a chance to have that hearing. So for certain violent crimes, I think that's a reasonable tweak. So as an example, there's some things I would like to see. I think New Mexico has too many resources and too many positive things going for it to be #1 in crime. And so we need to make some changes to hopefully not be that high on the list.
Thank you so much. And Larry, I think you covered this really well, but I just want to make clear to everyone here and everyone listening and everyone who has been reaching out, this is not the be-all, end-all. This isn't even the start. What we are talking about or what is on this resolution is going to be moving through the crazy fluid dance that is the legislative session. And what we advance here today or don't advance here today is not the end of the line, correct?
Mayor and Councilor Graham, that's correct. In fact, it's the broad brush, so what it signals to me representing the city of Las Cruces and Santa Fe is this is what council and staff identifies as priorities, and so it creates that almost, I wouldn't say guardrails, but a framework for me to know what to watch for, what to make sure you hear about, what to make sure you get an opportunity to weigh in on.
But we always have access to you. And obviously, Chief Story, that's not the last time you're going to say those things. You will be in Santa Fe. We will be in Santa Fe advocating. And I do want to say that I am supportive of everything that the chief has been sketching out here, recognizing that we don't know what's going to happen. Some things may get slotted in other ways, but that we have the commitment to carry these messages, to work, to go with the flow, and that you, as our smiling leader in all of this, are going to be there for us, making sure that we are kept up to date.
Mayor and Councilor Graham, and that's correct. In fact, it's been already happening in the interim.
Right.
Because of those conversations we started having last session on these issues, legislators and interim committees reached out to us to participate and also make presentations. So legislators have been hearing about it for the past, since the last session ended.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's just the general point. It's not the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman McClure.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a little bit more questions too.
I appreciate that we're trying to work through 7 people's different priorities here, and that's a hard battle to fight. But I'm curious too, as in when we have our capital outlay, we kind of tell a little bit of a story, at least in the packet that we received. But these legislative priorities doesn't have a why attached to some of these things that would set those parameters to say, this is how far we would go, this is what our needs are for the city. So for example, sustainability, are we looking to do more water conservation here? Santa Fe might not be looking at it in the same way we might. So I'm just curious why we don't have more detail in this list right now. And I guess things like affordable housing, that is such a buzzword that I wish there were a little bit more. What is stifling us from building quickly? I've heard two staff say that, there's some regulations. Be very specific to give legislators guidance. And I feel like that's where we're kind of losing sort of focus. And I understand that there's a lot of stuff happening and there's going to be a lot of work that we're doing and that we're going to support Chief Story, but what does that look like to tell people a little bit more where we're going?
Mayor and Councilor McClure, part of the struggle we have with that, and I'll use the affordable housing and as an example, the Municipal League hosted a summit within the past, and I'm looking to the mayor, it was about 3 weeks ago, with developers to discuss issues as it relates to zoning, local zoning, and challenges in building of affordable housing and housing in general. So we know there's movement on the issue. We don't know yet what that's going to be. So it's hard to commit to what that, unless it's a general policy statement like efforts to improve affordable housing or improve zoning and regulations to help increase housing access. It's hard to categorize some of those issues until you know what we're actually discussing. Public safety, we have a better sense because we know what the conversation has been about. With things specifically like the inspection of public records, affordable housing, sustainability, you get a list of the Coalition for Sustainable Communities, gives a laundry list of what they're going to be looking at, but we don't know what the specifics are of those until we see them. That's why that's difficult to go too specific, and I'm not sure hope that answers your question.
I think you and I spoke when we had our one-on-one about competency and kind of unraveled that idea for me, but even things like mental health care, we know it's a need, and I'd like to see that on a list. What is that hampering if we don't have something like this? It calls out and says, we need help down here. We need help in these specific ways. And I know that's our job when we go up to the legislator, but to a certain extent, setting those parameters again feels like something we can do here.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thanks again, Larry and Barbara. Just a couple comments on the capital outlay. I guess just really a request, honestly, 2 small requests. I know that when you presented this in November, there was the general request, and then there was a request for the governor's portal, that if in our materials we can sort of identify and define those, and then also in whatever materials staff council takes up there, that we also have which projects are regional projects, which projects will impact not just city residents, but really county residents, and even honestly broader than that. And so I think it's really important to have those projects noted. And then I want to address some of this other policy pieces. And excuse me, Larry, but I have a terrible memory, actually, and so I genuinely do not remember if we've had something like Exhibit B before in other resolutions. I feel like we haven't. I know that in the almost 5 years I've been here, that sometimes we will take positions on a specific piece of policy, but more than not, we have not, because like you said, we could support something at the beginning, and by the end of the 60-day session, it completely changes, and we perhaps might not want to support the final piece of legislation. I don't know that it's that extreme, but I feel like it's just been a few times where a specific piece of legislation has been brought to council for us to vote on whether we support it or not. I think generally what also ends up happening is that individual council members will go and advocate for things that we deeply believe in, that are true. Like, it doesn't matter, any specific piece of legislation that doesn't necessarily have to come to council. And I also, and I say this because I don't remember Exhibit B being something we've done in the past. And I say that because as an organizer or someone who's led policy campaigns at the legislature, honestly, Exhibit B doesn't feel neither powerful nor strategic in terms of, have city councils been asked to provide public support for paid family medical leave? I don't necessarily think so. I don't think organizers have approached me, at least, organizers of that particular bill, right? Like, there's a whole campaign behind that is being run by advocates and nonprofits and directly impacted folks, and none of them have necessarily come to us and asked that. And I think it's because I think at the end of the day, sometimes it just doesn't really matter, right? Like, I'm not saying our voices don't matter, because they do. They especially matter when we're talking about capital outlay request. Expertise like Chief Story and Chief Smith and and Natalie Green, like those kinds of expertise matter a lot. And so I don't necessarily think, again, this is powerful or strategic. I know that the animal welfare folks literally came here, right? Those advocates literally came here last month and said, we want you to support it. And I feel like those are the things that we should be responsive to. In terms of the public safety pieces of legislation, I don't know the specific organization. I don't know any of the bills, right? Like, I have Chief Story's brief here, and while he has juvenile justice reform, for example, as a big topic, there isn't any specific piece of legislation tied behind that. So it's very hard to throw our blind support behind anything. Who knows? Maybe they'll say, put them all in jail. I don't want to support that. We just don't know. And so I think it's important that we are responsive to requests that are made of local elected officials, city councils, when our voices are really needed. I think with pieces of legislation like IPRA, we clearly have city clerks all over the state saying this is important. Even chiefs of police are saying this is important. With things like, oh my gosh, what's the other one that we're supporting? It's IPRA, and then there's, you know what? It doesn't matter. FMLA? No, I feel like FMLA hasn't necessarily been something that has come to us and has said, it has? People have asked us? Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. What I'm trying to say is that I want the city council to be powerful and strategic in our asks at the legislature. I think last year proved what that can look like, and it can be very effective in bringing dollars back to our community. I think with big, broad topics like housing, there could be very good bills on housing that I support. There could be very bad bills on housing that I don't support. Same thing with public safety. Honestly, same thing with sustainability. And so I just wanted to say that because I was surprised to see Exhibit B. It felt like something new. And again, Barbara, I apologize if you're looking at me like, well, you just forgot. It just didn't feel powerful or strategic, is my ramblings to say all of that.
Mayor Pro Tem, Barbara Bencomo for the record. Yes, thank you for highlighting that. Exhibit B, which does lay out the policy priorities, is typically included in the packet that you consider and vote on for the state legislative sessions. Over the years, some of them have been very specific and some of them have been more broad. In the past, for example, we've had on the list things like support for the establishment of a state bank. Yeah. So there have been a number of topics on that list. We typically include them in our materials that we prepare for the legislative session that includes both the capital outlay priorities and any policy initiatives. Typically, the list of policy initiatives has been much smaller than the list of our asks for capital outlay, but we have included both, but again, to varying degrees of specificity. And maybe that's why, this year, because they are more broad than they've been in the past, that's perhaps why it doesn't, feel like something that we're seeing before in this form. But again, what we're bringing before you today are the topics for your consideration that would guide what Larry would then bring back for us to review weigh in on, again, for support or amendment, that sort of thing. And of course, we stand here and will take direction if you want those words to be changed. But those are the general topics that we glean from previous work sessions, but it's certainly up to your discretion as to how that's brought forward.
Thank you. Okay, so just then to clarify, this isn't, Exhibit B isn't necessarily saying, Larry, go to Santa Fe in the 60-day and go to every committee meeting that has an affordable housing bill and say Las Cruces supports it, right? What this list is saying is, hey, Larry, anytime there's a bill that you feel the city would benefit from or be hurt by, and you should all be aware and potentially take a stance, you would come to us and say, hey, this is happening, correct?
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, that's correct, because in a 60-day session, especially with as much money as there is now, that first 30 days, we're going to see anywhere between probably 1,700 and 2,500 pieces of legislation. I literally go through all of those, see if there's anything on the list that may have an impact, make sure it gets reported through staff and to council and to the mayor to weigh in on, and then make a decision if we have a position on any particular piece of legislation and what that is, and what does that mean going forward? What do we need to do with that legislation? Some of it's just for your information. Some of it's because it's been identified as a priority and we really need to activate and know what you want to do with a piece of legislation.
Thank you, Larry. I mean, for members of the public who are concerned that we aren't paying attention to public safety, which is not true, I'm happy to make an amendment to add a bullet point on here to add public safety. Again, I don't think Exhibit B is particularly strategic or powerful or carries a whole ton of weight, but if folks want to see that, I'm happy to make that amendment. I will also just say, because it feels like folks have sort of honed in on particular folks on the council, oh my gosh, back in February or March, after Chief Story had a public press conference that outlined some of his priorities, I released a statement and I said, actually, Chief and I are very much in alignment with competency legislation and some of these other pieces around bail reform. I strong firmly behind bail reform, that wealth should not determine someone's freedom, though I believe that there needs to be some changes. Him and I have talked about this. So for whoever wants to believe that this is not something I care about, I think perhaps maybe stop while you're ahead. It is very clearly public that is something I very much have spoken about publicly and support. If it's, going to be impactful and positive. Chief and I have had a conversation about the very special short session that happened in the summertime about one of the competency bills, and I agreed with some of it, and I didn't agree with some of the other pieces, mostly because I felt like it was a rushed piece of legislation. One of the pieces, for example, I know Chief says it couldn't be worse. I don't know, Chief. I feel like it potentially could be worse, but maybe not. One of the pieces of legislation on competency said, I remember very clearly, it said, if there is no mental health facilities available for someone to go retain competency, then just put them in jail. Be nice to them, but put them in jail. Is essentially what it said. I'm summarizing and being cheeky, of course, but they really had that, right? And him and I talked about this. And I feel like those kinds of things are very problematic for me to throw my full weight of support behind a piece of legislation that we haven't even seen yet. So I just wanted to say that for members of the public. And then again, for council, I think for my colleagues, I think it's really important that we sort of move away from like either or thinking or like all or nothing thinking, which I think Councilor Graham brilliantly described earlier. So I am chatty today, apparently, so I will stop now. But thank you so much, Larry and Barbara, for your work.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Larry, so I think the public should know that you're very careful about looking at the legislation that we support, and you've also let everybody know that right in the middle, as you're going, maybe for the vote, you get a quick alert that there's been a change, a horrible change to the proposed legislation that we were supporting or lobbying for. That happened with, Senate Bill 16 or 17, the competency one. But just to let people know, not that what I did, but just for reference, I was a state of California. I was a intern, for preparing legislation and reviewing it for the ballot, and it was horrible. I mean, there was something about mono lakes and preserving the mono lakes on a bill that was titled something totally different. It might have been Proposition 13, the one that, eliminated taxes increase in California on homes. But that's how bizarre it's been here in New Mexico as well. So I think people should understand that what we asked for, and even though it might go to the legislature, to either body, it doesn't really mean that it'll that we'll support it if they throw in, they throw in a wrench, and they think that people, and it's usually people who are opposing it, and that's why the good stuff doesn't pass, or the good stuff that we propose. But I think I just wanted to share that with the public here about how that works. It's really intense, and I recommend if any of you have time to go up there, go and get roller skates and and be prepared to get real skinny as you get through all the people there. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? We're good? Okay, Larry, Barbara, thank you. I know, like you said, this is a large, very large and broad brush stroke at this point. But I thank staff, the city manager, everyone, because what we're trying to do, the end game is receiving legislative funding. That's what we're looking at, getting projects done in Las Cruces and getting the subject matter experts, the directors and their staff to help us compile that list of what needs to be done and what we could use. So we're aiming small, we hope to miss small, and we get some end game results, some funding. So thank you for all the work that you put in. And I know it's difficult because it's a moving target and it changes once you're up there, but we'll do the best. And when public safety comes up, you know where we'll be, and you know we all support Chief Story, and we'll be standing there by his side to make sure that we get these competency laws and mental health issues and things. And McClure, you mentioned something about like the why and more specific. It'd be great. It'd be great. I think, as Larry mentioned, being at a housing meeting 3 weeks ago is kind of like when you look at the state, it's more of a catch-all, one-size-fits-all for every municipality, and it's very difficult. So I know that's one of the things Municipal Leagues is looking at, is trying to hone in on what specific for municipalities. And I hope that in the future changes so that we can be more specific with addressing the needs for Las Cruces instead of a one-size-fits-all or catch-all for the state. Okay. Yeah, you had something, Councilor?
I did. Sorry, one more thing before we move to the public comment. Larry, I believe Exhibit B pretty much in its entirety was on one of the slides. Can we go back? Okay, yeah, so this is pretty close. And for those who are, I know not everyone is working with a laptop, but if you are looking at the packet, the resolution as it's written, this would appear on page 129 or 129 of 381, depending on what format you're looking at. So this pretty much is the entirety. This pretty much is the entirety of Exhibit B. So these are the things specifically mentioned. The only one that is, so affordable housing, animal welfare, paid family medical leave, sustainability, IPRA, public safety, and the only one that is kind of specific, Larry, you specified, is because we're pretty much spearheading it. Okay, so I just want that on the level, because I've even during the meeting, I've gotten some emails mentioning that public safety does not appear in the exhibits, and I'm not saying that I'm happy with the vagueness of the exhibit, but this is what we are looking at. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and, Katrina, are you still available to assist with any public comments? Anyone wishing to speak on this topic, Katrina will assist you to come up. You'll have 3 minutes at the podium.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, Chief of Police. Tim Jenkins here. Number one, I would like to thank Becky Graham for your continued support of answering emails and supporting the Chief of Police. You have been a wonderful asset. Thank you very much. My understanding was that the City Council members were elected to be a voice for we the people, to represent us, the citizens of Las Cruces. But yet we have stood before you all year long at every City Council meeting and voiced our concerns time and time again about the safety and well-being of our city. And you refuse to listen. You say you back the blue and you support Chief Story in his efforts to make this city safer for all, but your actions say differently. You shall know them by their fruits, and your fruits say you don't support Chief Story in his efforts. It seems to me that you all sit here at every City Council meeting and hear our concerns, but yet nothing ever seems to change. You were all at the legislative meeting a few months ago at NMSU when Chief Story spent 3 to 4 hours explaining to the legislators what we needed to make Las Cruces safer for all. And we have pleaded all year with you all since Officer Hernandez was murdered. But somehow there is not one single one of those issues that you are willing to address in the next legislative session. How can that possibly be? And on top of all that, you all want small businesses to support family medical leave. The small businesses here in Las Cruces are already drowning and barely able to keep their doors open. We the people are frustrated, we are angry, and we are mad. You do not support us and you do not support the Chief of Police, but yet you say you do. Something must be done before we lose our city. This is unacceptable in every way, shape, and form. It feels like everything we say to you all goes in one ear and out the other, and nothing ever seems to change. We the people demand actions before the next legislative session. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Stryker. I had to change everything, Becky, because you educated me, and thank you for that. And thank you also for Councilor Bencomo and Flores for, it sure appears that you really do want the public to understand this process better, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But the one thing that I don't see changing is small business. Small business is the one that collects your GRT. They're a free bookkeeping service for the state of New Mexico and the city of Las Cruces. My husband and I have owned small businesses for most of our adult lives, but there's something that I think is really missing. Except for Council Matisse, and I apologize if I do not know all of your personal histories, but have you ever been self-employed? Have you ever owned a small business? We do not have paid vacations. We do not have state or company or employer paid insurance. We pay our own. We do not have a specific number of sick days. My oldest son, who owns Stryker Shooting World, was very, very ill last week, but he still had to go to work. He had to cut checks to the staff, he had to pay the vendors, and the GRT needed to be paid. He never misses a month. You collect a check, you have your insurance, and you have no idea the stress, the responsibility, the energy, the sleepless nights of owning and running a business, much less one in Las Cruces, where it's apparent that some of our policies and procedures don't support us. Paid family medical leave is a huge, huge burden to small business owners. We're struggling with insurance costs, costs of goods, broken windows, canceled insurance, theft, vandalism. And last year, Better Together New Mexico fought the Paid Family Leave Act, and they're going to fight it again this year, and I'm going to fight it against this year, because unless you're a small business owner, you really don't understand the burden that it puts on us. We struggle, all of us struggle. Buying groceries, paying for gas, all of us are struggling in this community. I just want to make sure that you understand from the small businesses. We run America and we run this community. Small business will continue to the best of our ability, but you have to listen to us. We need your support on this. And thank you again for the education on some of the things that I did not understand about the legislature, about how you're going to support the changes that come up. And I did hear that from almost every one of you. I'm going to hold you to it. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Vic Villalobos again. I'll finish what I started. Councilor Graham, absolutely thank you for bringing that up. And I think there was a big misconception of what the council was willing to support and not support and things like that. So I think that's a great example on what we see cannot always be what we get. And so I think it is important that in the future, that I get it, that we don't know what we're getting into when we get up there, but one bullet point can make a huge difference, right, in the perception of what we see coming into something. Unlike Donna, I don't feel as confident about some of these things. We all, when this all started back in the day with the officer being killed, I heard from everybody how I support Chief Story. I back him 100%. There is nothing. We talk all the time. We are together on this. But you know what? When it came push to shove and we saw the votes, we saw who supported Chief Story. We saw who the true people that were listening to the people of the city. So it's real easy for me to go, I support Chief Story if this happens. I support Chief Story if it doesn't conflict with something I want to do. I can support Chief Story if this and that. You know what? These are rules that need to be changed, and I think some of our counselors have seen that. And I think if you're going to support him, you support him and you don't put a little asterisk on everything we do, because that's what some of you do, is there's this little asterisk that I want to do what's best for the community, but wait, let me put my little asterisk because it has to fit my agenda. I want to do the best for the businesses of this city, but we're going to put a little asterisk about what we need to do about that. So we will see. I go with Donna. We'll see what happens when push comes to shove, and we'll really see who supports not only the things with Chief Story, but other things that this community needs. And I have a feeling that history will repeat itself. I have come to see that. So we'll see when push comes to shove who does what. So hopefully you will bravely prove me wrong. I would love for you to prove me wrong, and I can come up here and I'll eat crow all day long. So I hope you can do that, but I'll remain optimistic.
Mayor, Council, Steve Coletti, resident of District 5, proud member of the populace, or as we like to call ourselves, we the people. I've also had some education today, and I've kind of rewrote some things. Hopefully this makes sense. But I'm here today to address the absolutely inappropriate list of priorities this council is preparing to send to Santa Fe. This set of priorities is in no way representative of the needs of this community. It is merely a list of the pet projects of a few activist members of this body. Oh, sorry. I implore those of you of a more reasonable mind, please do not allow yourselves to be bullied by the more vocal members of this body and reject this absurd list of legislative priorities and rework the list to meet the needs of our community, one that is strategic and forceful. The community of Hope needs to be held accountable for the current monies they have before we give them more. Animal welfare is not something that the state needs to get involved in. That's a local matter. And we do not want to be forced into another tax with the paid family medical leave. My business, for one, will seriously look at moving to El Paso if this passes. And it's not to avoid it, because we already provide, as an employee benefit, short-term disability, which is almost identical to it. But it costs us about $10 a month, not the absurd cost that it's going to cost the state when you add all the bureaucratic costs. You are risking wasting an opportunity to make real improvements in our community. Please don't miss this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, City Councilors and Mayor. I'm Sarah Smith. I also appreciate the discussion today, and I knew that the list of legislative priorities is something that you don't want to get locked in too much to, but at the same time, if we don't stand for something, we're standing for nothing. And right now, it's really vague. The public safety, that means nothing. There's no point of even having it on there the way it's written like that. I don't think it means anything for our community in terms of what we really need. And those of us who have been talking to our legislators for years about these issues and basically being ignored, what we're hoping is that you guys will talk to them, because they don't listen to us. I don't know why, but they won't. Senator Cervantes holds the keys to the kingdom in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he won't let these bills move. But maybe he will listen to you if you tell him, we urgently need this. Will you at least let your committee hear it? But he won't listen to us. We know that across the city we're seeing signs that more needs to be done to stop the crime. Businesses and homes are being vandalized, windows are being broken, people's property is being taken, vehicles are being stolen, homeless people are camping out at businesses and homes, approaching people asking for money, scaring children, threatening people, leaving trash and feces all around. Drugged out people are wandering the streets, harassing people, leaving dangerous needles lying around where children can find them. My kids are witnessing drug deals happen in the downtown mall in the middle of the day. They're witnessing people on the bus here on fentanyl. They're witnessing people doing all sorts of things that my kids should not be witnessing in the middle of the day in Las Cruces. People are being harmed while trying to live peacefully and responsibly, such as Rosa Ortega, who was brutally attacked by a homeless person in broad daylight while trying to walk to the grocery store. And of course, you know about the tragic end of Officer Jonah Hernandez. You have the opportunity to send a powerful message to our legislators that we don't have. We don't have that opportunity, but you do, because they might listen to you. Your voices mean a lot more than ours do. So please consider adding some of these specific items, even if you then have to talk to them later and say, we don't like the way this legislation's going. We want the competency different. Great, talk to them about it. Tell them what needs to be different. But if we don't put anything real on paper here, this means nothing. The other thing is the family medical leave, which people have already talked about. I don't know how much you guys know about it. The fiscal impact report from last year's version of this bill showed that this was going to result in a tax increase of over $1.35 billion from 2026 to 2029. Billion. We cannot afford this. The businesses can't afford it. It's going to take money out of every single employee's pocket in this state, as well as the businesses. It's going to be the largest tax increase in the state's history. For you to come up here and say you support it on behalf of Las Cruces makes no sense. Please do not do that. Please take that off of your list. Thank you.
Hi, Rico Gonzalez, for the record. I work with El Paso Electric, but I'm not here for El Paso Electric today. I just wanted to make sure that I gave a little plug, and this may not be exactly the appropriate time, but a plug for the Chamber of Commerce and the City of Las Cruces has Las Cruces Days in Santa Fe during the legislative session. That goes from February 1 to 3. We'd love to see all of you there, and the public as well. If you have any interest, just go to the Las Cruces Chamber of Commerce website. You can see that there. And then lastly, a shameless plug for Larry Horan. You guys have a great guy here, and you should be really happy to have him watching your back. So, okay, thank you, that's it.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Leticia Sanchez Freeman. I'm a concerned citizen, and I'm also captain of my neighborhood watch. And I'm one of the leaders of a group of Las Cruces neighborhood watches. I don't understand how your list of crime-related legislative policy priorities simply state, quote unquote, public safety statutes in Exhibit B. You have over half a page, right here, you have half a page over to give public safety statutes its own bullets and specifically list some of the legislative priorities that Chief Story has brought forward. Legislation to address competency restoration for violent felonies and repeat offenders. Pretrial detention bail reform for violent crimes and repeat offenses while awaiting trial. Juvenile justice reform to reduce juvenile repeat offenders. Instituting a minimum mandatory sentence for felons in possession. Allowing law enforcement to be a petitioner for assisted outpatient treatment. Why not list them? Why? It would only take a few lines and exactly 52 words of what I just read to you, and you would still have room on this page. Why not make it known to the state legislators what your city, our city, what this state needs, instead of waiting to see what bills are passed or introduced? How is simply listing it as a public safety statute being proactive? How is that being a leader and serving and advocating for this community? Yet the Community of Hope has a whole page and Exhibit C all to themselves. I understand that they do their own legislative lobbying, and you're including it in this resolution as a matter of being a good neighbor, which is great. But yet you won't even include any details from your own police chief in this resolution? I don't understand. The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee and vice chair of the Courts, Corrections, and Justice Committee, Senator Cervantes, basically stated, hey, at least it's not as bad as Albuquerque, right? How can you be satisfied with that answer? Why are you not fighting harder for legislative priorities? Councilor Bencomo, you stated that Exhibit B is not strategic or powerful. Then let's make it strategic and powerful. Why not? So I ask you to vote to amend this resolution and make it clear to our legislators what your citizens and police department want from you. Thank you.
My name is Sharon Sorensen, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak in front of you. I tend to believe what is written as opposed to what is said, so sorry I have to rewrite this as I go. I had a list of at least 18 repeat violent offenders on my list here, but I'm not going to name them all. But I do see that competency restoration and bail reform for violent felonies, especially for repeat offenders, is not one of the top priorities. In fact, it's not even on the list. Violent individuals should not be allowed back in the street before their trial, and there should be mandatory pretrial detention in place. With the increase of illicit drug use in our community, why is there not a priority to allow law enforcement to petition for individuals participate in outpatient drug treatment? This would provide real help and real drug treatment instead of simply a safe place to use illegal drugs. And then basically, I am in support of not agreeing with the Paid Family Medical Leave Act. It would just cause more businesses, small businesses in Las Cruces to close down, and that, of course, would reduce the tax base of Las Cruces. Thank you for your time.
My name is Fred Huff, and looking at this list of legislative priorities presented here today and being voted on, I had to ask myself, who came up with these? Is it some out-of-town staff that has never driven around Las Cruces and seeing the homeless encampments lining the sidewalks, or all of the boarded-up windows that have been broken during break-ins and just outright vandalism, or the burned-out buildings that were set on fire by the homeless trespassers smoking their fentanyl? These are not the priorities that I've heard brought before you by citizens and business owners during this year. What I've heard is stop the crime, stop the catch and release by requiring bail reform so that these criminals are at least kept locked up longer than it takes the officers to fill out their paperwork on the arrest. The competency issue for catch and release is nothing but an excuse for lawlessness. If they are truly incompetent and committing crimes, they need to be placed in a situation where they can be helped, or at least where they are no longer harming themselves or society through assisted outpatient treatment or other effective means. Now let's look at your specific priorities. Affordable housing. If this was a business-friendly city with less crime and lower taxes, there would be more business and more opportunities for jobs, and then people could afford housing. My big question is, why is the city involved in real estate and the housing market? In my opinion, it is not the government's job in using my tax dollars. Animal welfare. Give us a break. I see more feral humans blocking the sidewalks, trespassing in the city parks with their encampments, damaging and destroying properties than I see other feral animals. Paid family medical leave. Yes, this is a great idea. Let's do more to destroy small businesses in our state. Thanks to the tyrannical COVID mandates by our governor the last few years, New Mexico has already lost 60% of the small mom-and-pop businesses. Let's do our best to destroy the rest of them with paid family medical leave. Great idea to create more joblessness and homelessness. Sustainability. I have no idea what this is. However, in my opinion, a city with high crime and low job opportunities sounds unsustainable to me. So much for campaign promises of making Las Cruces a safe city with opportunities for employment and growth. Job well done for not representing the interests and needs of the citizens of Las Cruces. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, and Chief Story. My name is Dan Parrott. I'm addressing each of you today to formally express my concerns regarding Resolution 25068 and request that it not be approved without including all of Chief Story's request for funding and support of the Las Cruces Police Department to address the city issues for the 2025 legislative session in Santa Fe. It is also imperative to address the question of responsibility when it comes to providing low-cost housing. Why should the city and its residents shoulder this burden while the majority of citizens are already managing their mortgage, their payments, insurance, taxes, and other essential expenses? This situation raises a significant concern about fairness and sustainability. Furthermore, I strongly opposed to the paid family leave section of the resolution. Small business owners who are already navigating challenging economic conditions cannot afford the additional financial burdens that this mandate would impose. The added bureaucracy could potentially drive many of these businesses into closure, resulting in vacant properties, job losses for their employees, and an overall detriment to our community and its economy. I emailed a summary of the above items to each of the councilors and the mayor. I would ask it that you read it carefully if you haven't already, and reconsider the implications of this resolution and its effect on our city's small businesses and residences. It is my recommendation that Resolution 25068 not be approved as written based on the above considerations. Thank you for your attention to this critical matter and its stated reasoning. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa Parrott. I'm a little bit scratchy with voice today, so bear with me. I'm a resident of District 6, and I'm active in CCIA, as you can tell, and also Businesses for Safer Las Cruces. I have two questions, which by your actions today will show your intent. At this point, I hope I'm wrong. Why do you feel it is necessary to force New Mexico businesses, the bulk of which is small, family-owned businesses, into losing so much money that they will not be able to keep their doors open, their lights on, and employ many of New Mexico's families? Do you feel you can run their businesses better than they can? If these same New Mexico businesses somehow manage to survive the Paid Family Leave Act, which, as Sarah said, will be the largest single tax hike in the history of our state, why then do you want to have a second go at shuttering them, doing nothing meaningful or specific with regard to competency laws, bail reform, and police officer recruitment, which would give Chief Story and his department the tools necessary to maintain law and order, so that your residents, your constituents, could once again feel safe to venture out into the streets of Las Cruces? I can only surmise, if Resolution 25068 passes today, that you will not stop until each and every resident of this city and state is standing in a bread line. But with no jobs, no economy, and no tax base, who will buy the bread? Please vote no on Resolution 25068 as it is written today. If Chief Story's initiatives are not included, how will anything productive happen? Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor. I'm Jennifer Cry, and I support the resolution. It's a list of items that we want to support and promote at the legislature. And to get mired in detail right now just doesn't seem, it seems counterproductive. But I'm here really because I'm here to say what you already know. There are a handful of us wearing purple today to show our support for the library. And I can't think of anything. I'm telling you what you already know, and I believe you support. I don't think there's any other service in the city that has such a widespread impact on our community. So Linda St. Clair is going to talk in a minute, and I agree with everything she's going to say. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, Chiefs. Ann Sanchez with Mesilla Valley Community of Hope. I would just like to thank you all for your careful consideration of the needs of our community. We appreciate you very much.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors, and other officials of the city. For the record, my name is Linda St. Clair. The fact that Jennifer supports everything I says and doesn't know what I'm going to say is impressive. I am the president of the Friends of the Thomas Branding Memorial Library, and I'm here specifically to thank you for the support that you've shown for Las Cruces Public Libraries by approving the master plan in October and committing preliminary funding from the TID for the initial design phase. You've demonstrated your commitment to a long-term vision for strengthening and expanding services that the library provides to the Las Cruces community, and we deeply appreciate your support for that vision. Today, by including funding of $5.6 million for design and construction costs related to the renovation and expansion of Brannigan Library in the city's legislative capital outlay priorities, you've taken another critical step in making that vision a reality. We know that there are many competing projects seeking funding, and we thank you for prioritizing the library in that process. Going forward, we hope that you'll continue to build on this initial momentum and will work to find effective and efficient ways to fund the remaining costs to fulfill the vision of the Las Cruces Library's master plan. Strong libraries do really make strong communities, and we thank you for investing in our library and for strengthening the Las Cruces community that way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Lucas Herndon, resident in District 2, and I am also here because I am deeply concerned by some of the things listed on our priorities. I very much support affordable housing, animal welfare, paid family medical leave, and sustainability. But it may surprise you that I too am worried about public safety. It's a major concern of mine because we live in the most dangerous state in the country if you pay attention to who kills people here, and that is cops. This is the most dangerous state you can live in when it comes to cops murdering citizens. And so when I see things like public safety and I hear people say that it's too vague, I actually agree. Because according to the city budget, 44%, the largest single amount on the pie graph, goes to quote unquote public safety. And I'm curious how much of that goes to the $20 million that the city just agreed to pay out to the family of Teresa Gomez, who was murdered by cops. Or the $6.5 million that was awarded to Aaron Valenzuela's family, who was murdered by cops. Or the $2.7 million awarded to Amelia Baca's family, who was murdered by cops. Or even, just for fun, the $225,000 awarded to the cop who murdered Aaron Valenzuela after the city violated his agreement with the cop union. So yeah, let's maybe dial in a little bit by what we mean by public safety, because to me, as a member of the public, I'm not worried about any of this stuff that people are talking about. I'm worried about what I see on paper. I'm worried about what I see in international journals, including The Independent reporting last Wednesday. $20 million settlement highlights nation-leading police violence problem in New Mexico. From that article, while police prosecutions are rare in New Mexico and everywhere else in America, officer-involved shootings are not. For years, New Mexico has been one of the places with the highest per capita rate of police shooting people. In 2024, the state had been the single deadliest place in the country for fatal police shootings, according to the Mapping Police Violence Database. The violence disproportionately came down to people of color, with black people 3.4 times more likely to get killed by police than white people, and Hispanic people 1.5 times more likely, according to that database. What do we mean by public safety? Who are we giving money to? Why? Why are we giving people money who are here killing us every year, and then we have to pay them out? Somebody explain it.
Council, any other comments? No? Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-068. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Coran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next, we'll move to 7.2, Resolution Number 25-069, a resolution approving a pre-commitment of city funding for a federal low-income housing tax credit project for an affordable multi-family housing development.
Move to approve, Graham. Second, Corin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Natalie Green, your housing administrator for the record. The resolution before you is a pre-commitment of city funding for a low-income housing tax credit. Just a little background on this issue is that we do have a 5,600 unit shortage based on our last housing needs assessments. Over 14,000 of our residents are cost burdened in the city of Las Cruces, and renters in particular have a higher cost burden. City Council, as part of their strategic plan, set a goal for staff to build, finance, or subsidize 300 multifamily affordable housing units. We're set to not only meet that, but exceed that. This project in particular would work towards that goal. It's a two-phase project for a total of 196 units. If approved, it would be located at the corner of Sonoma Ranch and Central. It's a 9.8 acre site, and it's proximate to the fire station, and I'll have a map for you shortly. Again, the resolution, if approved today, would support a affordable housing project to be developed by the New Mexico Housing and Community Development Corporation and Thomas Development Group. It would be subject to the approval of a 4% low-income housing tax credit through the Housing New Mexico application process. Why we ask for city funding is that it strengthens low-income housing tax credit applications. This resolution would approve up to $4 million, not to exceed 15% of the total development costs. It would be provided in the form of a loan. We typically do them at 3% interest over the life of the affordability period, and so your funding returns back to the city. Those final loan terms would be subject to a future resolution, and then we don't actually need the funding today. The funding would be contingent on a tax credit, and we would bring back budget adjustments at a later date. And at that time, we would ask council to identify the potential funding source. This funding would support phase one. It's approximately 96 units. It would be restricted to seniors 55 and older at or below 60% area median income. Seniors are our fastest growing population that's becoming homeless. Baby boomers are struggling with the rising housing costs, and their pensions and social securities are not keeping up. So we want to be responsive to the needs of our seniors. This facility would be a 3-story L-shaped building, Southwest design. It would also include a clubhouse, dog park, shaded walkways, gazebos, and I have some pictures for you, including a swimming pool and some recreational courts. This is the elevation of what this would look like. There's more than one. I believe they were passed out to you. I just included 2 of the elevations. This is the vicinity map, and again, you see it's adjacent to the new Fire Station 9. And then there's a site plan of phase 1, and then how phase 2 would interact with phase 1. And then major roadways, you'll see North Sonoma Ranch, Central Avenue, McGuffey. Just for reference, we wanted to include the potential income limits and maximum rents. This is based on 2024. Obviously, when this goes into service, they'll have different rents, but they'll be fairly similar. So the 60% rents are for a 1-bedroom are $795, and then the 2 bedrooms would be rent restricted to $954. And we also pulled some area market rents from the Sonoma Ranch area. that are just private developments. And so you can see the spread of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, depending on the complexes. Some of them are as low as 1,100 and as high as 15. And then we saw a few that were at 1,700 that I didn't include. But just to give you a comparison between market and subsidized rents. For transparency, we did receive additional requests for the 2025 low-income housing tax credits. We wanted to give you a full picture of those. We also received a request from Paseos Verdes. They are going after the 9% competitive application, as is Royal Crossing, which would be a development for families where the old country club is on the corner of North Main and North Main, Solano. And they are requesting 4.25. So we wanted to bring all of those to your attention. We did ask our Affordable Housing Committee to preliminarily evaluate all of these applications. They ranked them in this order. So their first choice was Paseos Verdes, their second choice was the residents at Sonoma Ranch, and the third choice was Royal Crossing. And Paseos Verdes is with the Public Housing Authority, and Royal Crossing is a Tierra del Sol application. And with that, you have your standard council options, and we'll stand for questions. And then the developer for this particular project is in the audience, should you have questions of them.
Thank you, Natalie. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Natalie. Just going back one slide, Natalie. So just so I understand correctly, can you just talk a little bit more about really what this means in terms of, are then these projects in competition with each other? Have we done a resolution for Paseos Verdes for this yet? Can you just talk about that?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, we have not brought a resolution for Paseos Verdes or Royal Crossing. We would ask for some direction if that's something the council would like to see. We did adopt Paseos Verdes as part of the legislative priorities, so I'm fairly confident that we can cover the 1.3 through that process. We would have to identify funding sources for the 4% and the 9%. The 4%, the residences, is not competing with Paseos Verdes or Royal Crossing in the application process, but obviously it's competing with here locally for city resources. And so the 9% will compete against each other and the rest of the applications at the state level. So it's very likely that only one of those would be successful in the application process. So the 9%, I would anticipate one will knock the other out. Unless we're really lucky and Las Cruces is very competitive, which we are. And so it's possible that all of them could be funded, and then, but we would really defer to council's direction on what projects to fund and how you want to fund them.
Yeah, honestly, that's super unfortunate that we're sort of fighting for this little tiny piece of the pie. Maybe everybody's sick of pie already, but you know, we are, it's a tiny piece of the pie, and that's really unfortunate because they're all so important. Can you talk about why Paseos Verdes was, by the committee, was marked as the #1 priority?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, Paseos Verdes has been an ongoing project. You'll see a full presentation on that later in today's council meeting. It is in the MRA area. It's located as part of the El Paseo MRA. And so staff has been working on that for quite a bit of time. It's a redevelopment project, so it would replace some older public housing, and then it would upsize that total development. So it's currently 38 units, and it would redevelop into tentatively 200 units, give or take a couple. And then it would also work well with the redevelopment efforts that are occurring with the Boys and Girls Club, some of the work we're doing at Valley View Park, Lift Up Las Cruces, and then FYI also has some adjacent property that they're looking to develop in conjunction with us. So.
Yeah, Paseos Verdes truly is such an incredible opportunity for our community, especially for it being in the infill and the MRA. So I don't necessarily know how this works, Natalie, but I guess I would love to see staff take steps towards bringing that to council. hope my colleagues agree. I mean, I think given the highly competitive nature of these types of applications, I, would love to make sure that this gets in there. And then Royal Crossing, you said that that's a private venture, that's a private application, and then 1 and 2 are sort of public.
They are all public-private partnerships.
Okay.
Royal Crossing is an application with Terra del Sol and Enrichment Communities. That's also intended to be a 2-phase project. Council may remember that as part of the Apodaca Blueprint, we adopted some priorities for affordable housing in that overall development. That one is located just north of Apodaca Park, adjacent to Three Crosses Hospital and some of the other development. And they initially looked at a senior application, but currently family is scoring more competitively, so they'll likely lean towards families, especially given the adjacency to the park, grocery stores, banks, and those other things.
Okay, thanks, Natalie. Yeah, Mayor, I would love to, have staff bring that Paseos Verdes next as well. Thanks, Natalie.
Councilor Correa.
Thank you. And Natalie, thank you for getting this together and bringing it forward. I also just want to add, thank you for clarifying the 4% and 9%, so that they're really separate kind of things. And you said pie, but we like burgers here actually in this housing conversation. And so in this case, the 4% burger, I think this is really interesting to see the way that it sort of breaks down. And I guess I would kind of, so these are the same developers who were doing Peachtree, who were our first 4% project, I think. I'm not 100% sure. I look to you to nod or say no. But this is these are the same folks, slightly different area, but I would kind of like to hear from them, just because investing in this area, I think, is really part of a vision, and I really appreciate your work bringing this up as 4%, and I understand that there's kind of a time-related sort of issue with the 4% qualification, and so I think that's why it jumped in this priority list to predate Paseos Verdes, I think, before we have that conversation. So if it's okay, and if I misstated anything, Natalie, please tell me right now.
Our first 4% project was, just to complicate the picture, was Thomas Development Companies.
Oh, right, sorry,
with
yes,
Katrina.
I continuously
But,
make this mistake.
Thomas Development Group is also helping with both Peachtree Phase 1 and Peachtree Phase 2. And I'll let them speak to the deadline and the basis boost if they want to. But this area, well, he walks up there, is a difficult to develop census tract, and so it has that designation. And then it's set to expire. And so once that goes away, it sort of changes the amount of tax credit equity that you can get for the hamburger.
At December 31st, right, is when it's set to expire. So anyway, sorry.
Thank you, Natalie. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Temp, and council members, I'm pleased to present to you this afternoon about our proposed residence. It is, as Natalie has mentioned, it's in the Metro Verdes.
Sir, can you state your name again?
Excuse me. Thomas Andrews with Thomas Development Group. And I have been actively developing multifamily in the Las Cruces, Donana County area for over 20 years. Metro Verde is in a census tract that is identified by Housing and Urban Development as a difficult to development area. And that's a calculation of construction costs and also income limits. And they come out once a year to identify these census tracts that qualify in this DDA. And then that travels over to the Internal Revenue Service, which has pretty much put the federal low-income housing tax credit program into play over 30 years ago. And with the tax credits, that allows us to attract private equity investment into these projects, which lowers the amount of debt that the project carries, which brings the rent down. And what's significant about the Metro Verde zip code is for 2024, it has remained to be in a DDDA, but it falls out in 2025. And we just heard about this back, I think, in late September, early October. So we're kind of scrambling, and we're scrambling because the significance is if we get an application into MFA for the residents by the end of the year, that DDA qualification stands for phase 1, which gives us a 30% boost in tax credits, which I hope my kind of simple calculation here kind of explains. That 30% in tax credits brings another $3+ million into our sources for the project. Without that 30% tax boost, our project becomes not feasible. And the other significance of getting an application in before the end of this year is the IRS has a clause that allows us to grandfather in a subsequent phase of the same project, which is directly adjacent to the first project. So we can come back a year from now and also get that 30% boost. And we would also have the benefit of that extra $3 million in our development budget. So that's the significance of where we are today and kind of a short thumb sketch of what a DDA and a 30% boost is. We're very excited about the location of the project. Metro Verde is an excellent area for this type of a 55+ community. We think we have an outstanding development team that we've carried over from the Peachtree project. And I'll stand for questions.
Oh, I just want to point to pickleball courts and dog parks just to highlight, you know, in case y'all are worrying about who's going to come and be mad at us. They've got that covered. They've got that one covered. Those two. So no, I just want to thank you again for your commitment, and I know that you being in Las Cruces, every time I see you, I feel really grateful that you're here investing with us, and thank you, Natalie, for the work that I know that this represents, because it's not that easy to make. It's a lot easier to make hamburgers out of hamburger meat than it is to make it out of this crazy public funding. So thank you.
Just maybe one other tidbit, and that was the competitive versus non-competitive. And I've developed 20+ 9% projects in New Mexico, and it is very competitive. It's usually 3 to 1. They can get between 16 and 19, 20 applications, and we'll pick 5 or 6. We've chosen to go to the 4% round because it's non-competitive. We've already met with New Mexico MFA. They know we're coming in with this, and there is room for them to support this project in 2024 and beyond, 2025 and beyond. And we just feel we can put more units on the ground quicker with pretty much the comparable amount of subsidy per unit.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. May I have your name again, please?
Tom Andrews.
Tom Andrews. Do you own the property in that area? The land?
No.
Who's the owner?
The owner of Metro Verde is Sierra Norte Development.
Sierra Norte Development.
We have an option on the 9-acre site at this point, and that's typical of these type of transactions. We option the property until we have all of our financing put together, and then we would purchase the property at construction start.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-069. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse is absent. Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.3, resolution number 25-070, a resolution authorizing the City of Las Cruces to accept grant awards for various city departments.
Move to approve, Graham.
I know, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize that anybody was going to speak on that one. Yeah, unfortunately, we've already voted on it. Yeah, if we can remove the motion.
I remove, motion to remove.
No, I think it has to be me. Because right, so I move to remove the motion of moving. Graham.
Okay, sorry, Joe. Okay, give us a minute. And ma'am, you can come up now. Sorry.
Thank you. Mayor, city councilors, so thank you so much for just taking a minute for me to provide public comment for the record on this resolution. My name is Beth Bardwell, and I truly appreciate the city's commitment, ongoing commitment to affordable housing. It is tremendous, and I really appreciate your hard work to make that happen. The City Council created an advisory affordable housing committee to advise council on how best to fill the city's affordable housing gap, whether by serving different populations, workforce, senior, multifamily, or multiple areas within the city, looking at parity of investment across the districts. I understand the committee has met recently to consider this project and at least 2 other projects and ranked them. And I appreciate that the council considered, as you were considering the commitment of these funds, that you consider those rankings and any other relevant housing data available to you. I'm here today to ask that the city also consider making a pre-commitment of funds to those 2 other additional projects, those 2 other affordable housing developments by Tierra del Sol and Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority that would serve workforce housing and multifamily populations benefiting the El Paseo corridor and Royal Crossing neighborhoods near Apodaca. Both of these projects, Paso Verdes and Royal Crossing, are competing for that 9% federal tax credit, and a city pre-commitment of funds is needed to make them competitive. And if the city doesn't provide matching funds for them, they will not be competitive in a statewide application for those tax credits. And I believe the deadline for making a pre-commitment for those projects is January 21st. So there is an opportunity for the city to address that in a separate resolution. And that's all I have to say, and I thank you very much, and I apologize for the inconvenience.
No, thank you. I apologize. Go back to 7.3, resolution number 25-070.
Remotioning to approve.
Thank you.
Graham.
Seconding for the first time.
Seconding for the second time. Thank you.
And where's Joe? There he is. I didn't look far left. All right, you're on.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilor, City Staff, and Public. My name is Joe Padilla, Budget Analyst with the City of Las Cruces. Today, I'm bringing forth the resolution to accept various grants for the city. The New Mexico Environment Department has awarded a $50,000 grant to the Las Cruces Utilities Department. This funding will support the implementation of the Growing Green Composting in Public Schools initiative. This initiative will promote food waste recycling at a local elementary school within the Las Cruces School District. The grant will enable the purchase of food waste recycling bins and the development of educational materials for student and staff engagement. The food waste collected at the local school will be redirected to the city's Green Yard Waste Recycling and Composting facility. The Department of Justice, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS for short, has awarded a $194,000 grant to the police department. This funding will be allocated toward the acquisition of narcotic analyzers and the expansion of the department's narcotics awareness program. The State of New Mexico's Crime Victims Reparation Commission has awarded approximately $36,000 to the police department, supplemented by a local match of about $9,000, which has already been budgeted. This grant covers approximately 50% of the salaries and fringe benefits for the department's victim advocates. These staff members provide essential services and resources to crime victims within the city of Las Cruces. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, through the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope, has awarded a $600,000 grant to the Public Works Department. This funding will facilitate renovations at Mesilla Valley's Community of Hope to support the organization's growth. This includes the construction of offices, bathrooms, HVAC systems, storage, and the purchase of equipment and furniture in the currently unoccupied portion of the building. I'll now hand it over to Cynthia Campo to discuss the CIP amendment.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilors. Cynthia Campo, CIP analyst, and as per these grant acceptance, there's only one CIP amendment for the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope expansion remodel project for the $600,000. And here are your options.
For your council options, we stand for questions. Sorry.
None? Any members of the public? Just checking. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-070. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.4, Council Bill number 25-016, ordinance number 3087, an ordinance authorizing the real estate purchase agreement between the City of Las Cruces and the Industrial Acquisitions.
Move to approve.
Second, Graham.
Good afternoon, City Council. Sarah Gonzalez with Economic Development. Before you is going to be the purchase for city-owned property located within the Las Cruces Industrial or Innovation Industrial Park for CH Industrial Acquisitions LLC. The request is for two properties. They each encompass 11.2 acres, which would total the 22.4 acres in size. They are known as Lot 4 and 5, the West Mesa Industrial Park 26, replat number 1, so they are platted lots. Their addresses are 341 and 371 Alliance Drive, and currently all the utilities are connected. Here's a vicinity map of the subject properties. To give you some bearings, this is where Love's is. This is going to be on the south side of I-10. These two properties are located essentially near Premier Distributing and Alaska Structures up here on the north side, and then we have Surdioplast at the bottom. Here's a lovely view of our desert landscape out there in which we'd like to see additional buildings going out, and so this would just be the view from basically the properties on which they'd be purchasing. Essentially, whenever the city does go and sell land, there are two appraisals that are required. One came back at $795,200, the other came back at $798,000. With that, the offer was made as well as a negotiated price to cover the $795,200. With that, we also do split the closing cost whenever we do sell land. The proposed use for the property is to build and construct about it's going to be two different buildings, one on each parcel for about 230,000 square feet of storage space, and so that's going to be considered cold storage. This will bring in a capital investment construction project of over $60 million for each site. To give you kind of a reference, this was one of the developments they had finished. essentially, this is what you would see. Those buildings are about 180,000 square feet. We would be looking at an additional 50,000 square feet per building on each lot. This would be essentially the layout for each side of the buildings, and then you would have all of your driving and parking stalls through here. So it's going to provide at least access in and out of those properties. Because there's 3 frontages, it also helps the actual development for access. And so it's going to be able to remove and get that in and out truck traffic for the 18-wheelers a lot easier. This does align with the strategic plan or economic development goals, as well as Elevate Las Cruces. And then 50% of the sales does go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as well. And so here are council options. We do actually have the applicants available via Zoom, so they are aware and can answer any questions you may have as well.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you. And thank you, Sarah. Where exactly is the location? Where it's off of I-10?
So the location's going to be within the industrial park.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be on the south side. So if you were to come down and travel through the Loves area, or you can actually access it through Robert Larson, which would be your frontage road. This is going to be Crawford, and you can access it either through the south side, or you can actually come off of Robert Larson and access it through here. So it's all going to be on the south side within our industrial manufacturing zones.
Great. And have you done a projection as to how many jobs this it would how many would be available, or excuse me, not available, create? How many jobs would this create? Do you know?
Mayor and Councilor Flores, I would defer to the purchasers. They are currently working to see if they can go ahead and bring in tenants, and they would be able to provide you additional information based on the actual development of jobs within this kind of land use.
Okay, but at this point, we really don't know if they will come. Well, if you build it, they will come. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Ms. Gonzalez, and thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? No. Any members of the public? Yes, come on up, Devin.
Mayor, City Councilors, my name is Davin Lopez, President and CEO of Mesilla Valley Economic Development Alliance. And of course, I'm here to show our support for this project. A couple of things I want to mention is, number one is what this company will bring to the area is, first of all, we have non-revenue generating land over there. The new tax base that would be created from an investment like this, $60 million in phase 1, potentially $60 million in phase 2, talking about significant construction GRT coming back to the city of Las Cruces, and also long-term property tax when none is being received today. But most importantly, I think many of you know we've been trying to attract cold storage to the region for quite a while now. Reasons why is because, number one, it is critical infrastructure to support our agricultural community, but also creates phases for food processing and value-added ag to grow with it because we're able to now store commodities in this area. It's part of a growing change in terms of food security across the U.S., and given our position on the U.S.-Mexico border, we know there's demand for it, not only from our existing agricultural base, but a lot of the produce and commodities that are coming across the border right now on their way to a U.S. consumer. So we hope you will find support for this project as well, and we successfully bring this company to Las Cruces. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Devin, and great news. Thanks. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3087. Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Councilor Matisse is absent. Councilor Graham?
Yes.
Councilor Cran?
Yes.
Councilor Flores?
Yes.
Councilor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.5, Council Bill number 25-017, ordinance number 3088, an ordinance to authorize the convenience of a city-owned vacant partial known as partial number 4 on Compost Street.
A mouthful. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the city.
Move to approve.
Hold on.
Second. Way to jump in, though.
All right, Isaac, you're up.
All right.
You're up at the plate.
Got ahead of my horses there. All right, good afternoon, Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Isaac Holguin with the Housing and Neighborhood Services, and the ordinance before you is a land disposition for an affordable housing development. Here's some background about the subject property. The City of Las Cruces acquired 905 Campo back in 2011, and the parcel currently remains vacant. The Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority is applying to the Housing New Mexico, previously known as New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority, for a 9% low-income housing tax credit. The 9% low-income housing tax credit is a more competitive process rather than the 4% low-income housing tax application. Phase 1 will be developed on this parcel and will be comprised of 2 buildings for a total of 80 units. The first building will have 20 units designated for veterans. The second building will have 60 units available for workforce housing. And then here's a vicinity map of the subject property on the corner of Arizona and Campo, and then a little bit to the east side is the Munson Center. The City of Las Cruces Affordable Housing Committee reviewed and consented the donation of the land to Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority for an affordable housing development. In accordance with the state's Affordable Housing Act and the city's Affordable Housing General Oversight Ordinance, the donation of property to a qualified grantee is allowed. City staff recommends donating the remnant parcel to Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority contingent of the award of the low-income housing tax credit. And with that, there are your standard council options, and Juan Olvera, the director of the Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority, is in attendance if you guys have any additional questions for him.
Any questions by council? Seeing none. Any members of the public? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve ordinance 3088. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Coran? Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next, we go to board appointments. We have John Norman, new appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is on the motion to appoint John Norman to the Historic Preservation Commission. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Coran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is notice of proposed ordinances, none. City Council member board reports and comments. I'll start with Counselor McClure.
None today, thank you.
Counselor Graham.
Just a quick double side shout out. On Friday, Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving, Las Cruces Utilities had a really busy day with a water main break. No, they were already out in force, but I'll get to you in a second. Las Cruces Fire Department, well done on structure fire at Solano and Kansas. Amazing work, but you turned all of our water super brown from your use of the fire hydrant, which you are forgiven because that's your purpose in life. Back to you, utilities. Despite water main break and other madness, really great service in getting someone out on what's essentially a city holiday to flush out the hydrant and allowing me to wash light-colored clothes later in the day. So, no, just to say, with humor, but great appreciation. Thank you, LCFD. Thank you, Las Cruces Utilities. Go team. Thanks.
Thank you. I also want to give a brief shout out to Fire and PD dealing with an oil spill that happened last week. I was also by Graham's house, but there were a lot of holiday shoppers and people rushing around and panicked, and you all did an extraordinarily good job of both addressing the issue in the short term and clearing it, but also directing traffic. So I just want to, everyone that sprung into that action, which honestly, I didn't have oil spill on my things I'll have to worry about on council bingo card, so now I have to expand the bingo card. So thank you for your prompt and really great follow-up on that, and helping on a major thoroughfare on a big day where people were traveling around and being a little bit crazy driving. It was extraordinary, so thank you for that. I also have one second sort of update related to the Animal Services Center. You know, we've learned that the Animal Services Center executive director will be getting another job, and so we will be initiating sort of conversations about interim appointments and the search and all of those things next Friday. Next Friday morning, we will have public meetings, and those will be announced shortly. But just to tell folks, that's on our radar and in progress. You'll be hearing soon about more details coming up. But I think I do just want to take a minute to thank the Director Thacker for all the work that he's done. If we don't have another chance, I think we will at least at an ASCMV meeting, but really for moving the ASCMV into a new era of work with community, thinking about our animal populations in a different way. And so I just really want to thank Director Thacker and let the public know that we're working on a plan, and there will be ample public input as that conversation goes on. So that's all for me. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Ms. Corin, Councilor Corin, for sharing that information. I think that I wish Clint happy trails. He was our director ab initio from the very beginning, I believe. At any rate, I enjoyed working with him, being on the board for about 7 years, and well, I just wish him well. On another note, we just celebrated Thanksgiving, and we, think about all the things we're thankful for. And in spite of people coming up here and criticizing everything, probably from the color of our clothes to the color of our eyes to, everything, it makes it sound as if the city of Las Cruces is not anything but a place for the downtrodden. And frankly, with all due respect to those who have come to say that, I think, therefore the grace of God go I. And I just don't see any solution to people. I just don't see any benefit in people coming up and hearing the same thing over and over and over. And the conditions, the economic conditions haven't changed. The population hasn't changed, except for people who are looking for maybe a warmer place to be. And I just want to make that comment. We should be happy and do whatever we can, happy for what we have, and do whatever we can to help those who have not. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Just want to quickly apologize for being late. I was at NMSU where the Latin American programs were hosting their Latinx graduation for Latino students. There was about 40 students who received their stoles, and they invited me to be their keynote, and I was very honored to be with my community today and to have given the keynote speech. And part of what I said there today was that it's really weird being asked to do a keynote speech when sometimes I feel like I just graduated, like last year. I didn't, of course. I got my bachelor's 14 years ago and my master's 10 years ago. So what do you mean keynote? I just graduated. And so I was just very honored to be there with students and families. And I don't know, it just served as a really good reminder that, a lot of the students there today and their families are also constituents, and their families also live in our districts, and they also live in our city. And You know, what happens here for 1 hour at public comment, you know, isn't end all be all. There are other people, many other people in our community watching and listening and paying attention. And I was just very honored and excited to be with him during this celebration, which is why I was late, and I'm only sorry a little bit for that. I do want to note that the Oversight Committee is officially starting this week. We have our first meeting this Wednesday. I will be there as mayor's appointee, and I think Councilor Matisse will be there as well. Of course, we are non-voting members, but that is this Wednesday. And then that's really it. I did just want to just speak a little bit on like the either or thinking, and that often we hear today, but especially here in general, but especially today. And you know, it's this. There's a lot of limitations to either or thinking, right? Either you're for Chief Story or you're against Chief Story. Either, you know, if you support animal welfare, then you don't support public safety. If everything isn't on the list, then it must not matter, right? So like this either or thinking has a lot of limitations, and I want to push, gently challenge us as leaders, not bully, just gently challenge us as leaders of the city to not fall into that trap. I know that I have, right? Like I know that I have fallen into that before. Either if you support shopping cart ban, then you must not support homeless programs, right? I have fallen into that trap as well. And so either or thinking has a lot of limitations. And as leaders, I think it's important that that is not something we fall into, especially as we head into something as important as the legislative session, where we are fighting, again, for a little bit, a piece of the pie to bring to our communities. And then just lastly, never used a point of privilege, but I want to just in a personal matter, I have this platform, and my grandfather was laid to rest on Sunday, and I just wanted to say his name here today because I'm sure that when he was a bracero many years ago, he would have never imagined having a granddaughter in this position. And so his name is Raúl Figueroa Armenta, and I just wanted to memorialize that here today and take a little bit of privilege to do so, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And again, our condolences to you and your family on the passing of your grandfather. I just want to say thank you to all the staff for all that they do day in and day out. Last Monday, Casa de Peregrinos was handing out turkeys right before Thanksgiving. I just want to say thank you to all the city departments that were there volunteering. We had Public Works and Housing, Police Department, and I forget who else, but they were all there, and I appreciate them. As I said, all the city employees for all that you do, and of course, police and fire, public safety. But I just want to let the public know it's not just about the responders when we talk about public safety. We're talking about streets, our roads, our sidewalks, our lighting, our drinking water, our animals, everything that involves our community, our public safe spaces. We want to make Las Cruces safe, and that's what public safety is all about. And when we talk about public safety, that's the main thing. It's not just about police and fire as the responders, but in general, that's what we're working towards. Those are our legislative priorities. Those are the things that we're going to seek our next budget retreat on. How do we make Las Cruces safe as a community? And we'll continue to work on that. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Enriquez, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, and City Council, Icani Tamopeao, City Manager, and as well condolences to you, Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, for your grandfather. I'm sure he was a great man and proud of you. Just a few announcements. Internal Audit Oversight Committee is reconvening their meetings and will resume this Wednesday, December 4th. A reoccurring Oversight Committee meetings has been scheduled for the first Wednesday of each month, beginning with December and moving forward. Regarding quality of life announcements, we have Frost Fair will take place on Saturday, December 14th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at the Thomas Brannigan Memorial Library. This is an interactive experience with multiple organizations highlighting activities from libraries, museums, and partner organizations. There will also be signups for the library winter reading program. Additionally, Holiday at the Depot will take place at the Railroad Museum on Friday, December 13th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on the Railroad Museum. It will be decked out in lights for a special holiday celebration in a historic building. Then for Parks and Rec, we have the annual tree lighting event, Come One, Come All, this Saturday. Will be held this Saturday, December 7th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Downtown Plaza. There will be music, photo opportunities, refreshments, giveaways, and much, much more. The tree will be lit at officially 7 p.m., so you won't want to miss out. And then we'll have a special speech by Mayor Enriquez there as well. The Park and Recreation Department keeps Keep Las Cruces Beautiful program, KLCB, will host a neighborhood dumpster day from 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday, this Saturday, December 7th. KLCB will provide open-top trash containers for the community to dump yard, waste, household trash, and other permittable items for free. Open-top container locations will be held at 3 spots: Tony Gomez Park on Espina Street, Henry Benavides Community Center on McClure Road, and last but not least, Las Cruces Skate Park on Walnut Street. Thank you, Mayor. That is all.
Thank you, Connie. And I think that's it. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second, Graham.
This is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse is absent. Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes.